Hey guys, Jack here, and today I'm starting a new series on this channel called Film Analysis. A client of mine actually sent in some footage and really wants some feedback on how to get better, not only overall, but in specific to this video. He really wants to work on his counters. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna review some of his footage when he's drilling and then see how it applies to some of his game footage, as well as providing him with some feedback and nuance on how to improve it or fix some of his mechanics or strategy regarding his game. I'm looking to do this a lot more frequently, so if you guys have footage, make sure to DM me. I'll try to get to as many of them as possible. I do charge for this, keep that in mind. But yeah, if you want to be featured on my YouTube, I think this would be great as well to learn a little bit more about your game from a pro. So yeah, let's get into it. So we're starting off with you drilling. I just want to see, it looks like you guys are doing straight up, you know, just like heads up at the kitchen line with half court. That's a good counter right there. Where did this guy come from, by the way? Look at this guy. Look at this guy's flick right here. Hold up. I gotta change this. This guy came from, looks like this guy came from ping pong. It's nuts, but that's a good counter. So what I consider a good reaction time is if you are able to start your movement, your paddle movement towards the ball when the ball is still on the other side of the net. So as you can see, as the ball reaches at like right over the net, you start moving your paddle up. That shows me that you have good reaction time and that training reaction time isn't the problem. It looks like it's gonna be more anticipation or mechanic based on the reason why your reaction time may be a little bit slower or you're getting jammed. I do see that you took this as a forehand, and just off of this, it looks like you prefer your forehand. It isn't a bad thing. Like you could open up forehand here and you were successful because you got on top of it, as you can see, but I do see that you didn't even really show backhand at all before. Like typically your paddle face is directly out front. You don't lean towards backhand. Like a lot of players, when they sit and counter, they lean more towards backhand, which I think is something that you may, depending on your footage, need to start doing, but we'll see on that. So let's keep going. That was a good counter, by the way. He sped up crossbody, obviously. But that should be at like the center of your body, and you still opened up forehand. I think you tend to favor your forehand a lot in hands battles, which favoring forehand isn't a bad thing when you're having a when your partner's having a hands battle in front of them, or you're having a hands battle cross court. That's when you should open forehand and not sit backhand. That's when your paddle should be facing cross, or, you know, like straight in front of you, like what you're doing here. But when you're playing heads up, a game like this, or when the ball's being sped up in front of you, you should lean more towards your backhand. So because you hit this ball as a forehand, you're very out of position for that next ball. Once you start playing somebody that's a little bit better and anticipating the speed up and then the next ball to be the put away, you jumping and sliding off the court like this is not gonna do you wonders. So instead, what I would like you to do is sit backhand on this for sure. Because especially if he speeds up middle, it's most likely your partner's ball. There is still a little window where you need to open, but that window to open your forehand should not be this big. I mean, you could see this speed up is right at your head, or is right at your, you know, like mid chest, and you slid to hit the forehand. Instead, I would just like you to hit a backhand counter. And if you don't like hitting backhand counters because your backhand counter is weaker, then that's something that you need to drill. Especially if you're looking to improve your backhand counters. One of the most important things that you need at the net, because your forehand counter can only do so much. You can't hit your forehand counter in front of your body, but you can hit your backhand counter, you know, it covers a lot more. And keep in mind, it's not a bad thing to love and prefer your forehand. I think a lot of the best pros, even like Ben Johns, when I was talking to him, he said that all you need is a good backhand counter. You don't need anything else, especially if you're a right side player. You can run around your drops. You have enough time to run around your drops and hit every single drop as a forehand. And even most dinks, you can look at good examples like Jack Sock or Thomas Wilson. You don't need a backhand. Forehands are way tougher to read. But when you speed up right in front of you, the pattern that I want to see when you speed up out in front, or when you just speed up straight in front, is forehand to backhand. Because notice how your follow through is on your backhand side with this. So just naturally the pattern that's most convenient and takes the least time to reload is to just sit backhand right there. Right there, the ball is already coming back and you are already sitting backhand. Now all you have to do is move your feet a little bit back towards the middle of your box and hit it out in front as a backhand. That also reduces time on your opponent because you're hitting it more out in front. And you can hit it down. I think that's a pattern that you should work on, is the forehand speed up in front of you and then the backhand counter, rather than right here where you hit a forehand speed up and then immediately, like look at this, you could have taken the ball right there with a backhand counter. You have taken that ball way out in front, but instead you're letting it come to you like this. And I mean, once again, if the ball was hit a little bit harder, you'd be even more out of position. Notice your feet, they're still going towards the sideline. Right there, you see your feet is still towards the sideline. So then he hits that ball, which is perfect. And that's exactly why you're out of position right there, is because you took this as a forehand rather than a backhand. Notice how much lower it is when you make contact. You make contact right here compared to if you hit it as a backhand, you would be hitting it right, I'd say here. So you would be taking it instead of right there, probably like half a foot, I'd say, higher. And you'd also be taking it more out in front. And you would be still in the middle of your box. You're not out of position. Good example of this is Ben Johns. He has a phenomenal backhand roll, or backhand counter, I mean. And because of that, he always has a solid base. And even when he hits his forehand, he doesn't slide out of the way. He basically just like leans his hips, or he just leans his upper body, because then your shoulder, say like someone's speeding up at my shoulder, instead of speeding up on my shoulder, all I have to do is lean and bang, now it's literally my forehand. And what it's looking like is you came from tennis, you're like very well adapted to pickleball. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but a lot of tennis players, when they open up, they also move their body out of the way. But if you look at a lot of these pickleball players, a lot of these pros, when they get sped up at their forehand, they don't move their feet out of the way. Instead, they just move their upper body to get out of the way. Yep. I want to see this every time. Same ball, you hit literally the exact same ball cross that we talked about before, but instead, look at your positioning. You are perfectly in the middle of your box. So statistically, you are making it harder for your opponent to find your forehand here. You're holding two-y, which is perfect because you can cover line if needed. And because you did that, you were able to take it a little bit earlier. Look how in front you are taking that ball. That ball is way more out in front, and you were able to hit it down with some topspin. And look at your positioning. Because you took that ball as a backhand right here, you moved your left foot a little bit back, which is fine. I'm not saying don't move your feet, but now look at how ready you are for the next ball. The ball just started coming back, and look at your positioning right here. That is way better than what we talked about before, where your feet were literally over the sideline. That is a no-no. So this is a perfect hands battle that I see from you. This is perfect. Same thing, glad you hold two-y here. He tried to speed up, I don't know if he sped up line or just missed your left shoulder. But yeah, like I'm glad you favored backhand right here. That's a good favor, especially when the ball is on the line. He's most likely gonna speed up line. It's harder for him to go cross here. When it's to the side of your body, sitting two-y is definitely the better option. I think the best ready position is holding two hands on the paddle. Just the second hand, the non-dominant hand, should be just lightly held on the paddle. And then as soon as you realize that they're speeding up not at your body in line, then you tighten your non-dominant hand to get behind it and use your torso obviously to pull around it, which is, it looks like exactly what you did. And you could see you got your hips involved, you got your shoulders involved. It's perfect. It's a good counter. Same thing here. So as soon as you speed up right here, I want you to move your right foot back to where it was. Just for simplicity, so as soon as you hit this speed up, I want your right foot to go back to where it was. I'm glad that you get around the ball when you hit a speed up like this, but as soon as you hit that speed up, I want you to go back to the middle of your box. Right here, you can still see not a lot of space right here. You're leaving a lot of space open in the middle. That is your ball to cover. You did a good spot jamming him in this scenario. As you can see, his freaking shoulders all the way up here. So you did a good job jamming him and finding a good spot. But yeah, next time I just want to see you sit more in the middle of your block. There are some players that are very good at opening up and covering their right shoulder with a forehand. A few of them I would say is J.W. Johnson. He has a very good forehand open with his counter. And what makes his forehand counter so good is he actually puts his elbow, instead of on the side of his body, he puts it more towards the front, towards his belly button. So now he can take that forehand earlier, more out in front, rather than taking it on the side and being capped right here. So if you still want to favor your forehand on these counters, learn to then set your elbow more out in front rather than towards the side of your body. Plus, that will also prevent you from sliding a lot with your feet, because when you have your elbow to the side and not out in front, then you have to move your feet to find that spot, or your torso, which is what we talked about, but you have a habit of moving your feet. Compared to when it's out in front, all you have to do is lean a little bit, and you're taking it earlier, so it's tougher for them. JW does this really, really, really well. Okay, so I know I covered a lot there, but I think the biggest things that you need to focus on is, even though you're sitting backhand favored at points, your mind is still favored towards that forehand slide. And we went through some examples where, I can see where your mind is looking to slide forehand, even though the percentages are favoring a backhand counter. So one thing I would say is work on covering your right hip and your right shoulder with a backhand counter instead of a forehand counter. Or if you do want to stick with that forehand counter to cover your backhand and forehand side, you will have to change your mechanics, where instead of countering and sliding with your feet, you're going to have to move your elbow a little more out in front to give you to take that ball a little bit earlier, and you won't have to move both your feet and be out of the air. Avoid sliding with both of your feet on counters, because then you're going to be out of position for that next ball. I understand at points you need to move both feet, but there are a lot of times here where you're opening up forehand where you could just hit a backhand, and when you open up forehand, you are now completely off the court and you're leaving that middle open. Your partner is not going to cover all of that just because you slid outside of the sideline. If you are going to hit a forehand counter, I want you to think of it as a put away. If you're going to slide that aggressively, I need you to think of that forehand counter as being a put away. You can't slide that much and hit a ball just in. It needs to be a put away. And when you're speeding up forehand in front of you, or even cross body to the person in front of you, then I need you to go forehand to then backhand counter. There are some times where you're speeding up forehand and you're following through on your backhand side, but your mind is still favoring hitting a forehand on the next ball. You just need to commit to the forehand backhand combo. It's much easier, it's simpler, it saves you time, it's more compact. You definitely need to sit with that combo. So yeah, I wish I had some time to watch some game film, but I just did this for like 2 hours and it's already midnight, so I need to head to bed. So parts of that were from a private video that I sent him separately, but other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is the first of maybe many in a series. There's a lot of key takeaways from this, and everybody has their own different habits or things that need to be adjusted. Even I work on them on a daily basis. I'm definitely not perfect, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to subscribe down below for more. And if you're looking for more content, make sure to stick around.